Hello everyone, it's me, Lucy, back with episode 20 of this series. Right now, Wukong is still punching fiercely at the flying turtle above. Wukong, annoyed, asks not to ask about his identity. Houseen, looking up from below, feels a headache as he doesn't know how to explain to the mysterious lady. The demeanor of this little king of hell resembles being controlled by his father, as if he had been rigorously trained since childhood to the point where he developed the thought of being extremely useless, but in fact, he is very strong. The mysterious lady listens to his explanation with a bit of confusion, but to know more precisely, Houseen wants to confirm a bit more. Meanwhile, Wukong is still hot-blooded, punching continuously from the previous episode until now without stopping. At this moment, Houseen waves his hand from below and calls out, "Little monkey, stop for a moment. Come down and take me up there." Wukong turns back, confused, looking at his master, not knowing what trick he wants to play. After a moment, Wukong grabs Houseen's clothes. And he carries him up to where the little king of hell is. The two sides look at each other, still without any movement. Then, Houseen awkwardly smiles and asks him, "Little brother, I'm quite curious about something. With your strength, why do you always remain so modest?" The little king of hell looks at him with a weary expression and says, "It's not that I'm modest. Compared to my father, I'm just like worthless rubbish." It seems like he has a lot more to say but is hesitant to speak further. Seeing this, Houseen feels a bit uneasy and asks again, "Your father said that. Isn't that a bit too much?" Hearing these words from Houseen, the little king of hell becomes panicked. Raising his hand to vehemently object to his interpretation, "No, my father only wants what's best for me." Then Houseen thinks of something and asks him again, "May I ask a question? Have you ever been outside of the underworld?" Hearing this question, the little king of hell looks downcast and replies, "I've never been outside. My father told me to limit contact with outsiders, because there's a lot of people out there setting up multi-level scams. It's very dangerous. I already lack any talent, and being harassed by others will only delay my cultivation progress, and no one can save me from that." Hearing this, Houseen can only cover his face with his hand and lament, "Oh my God, it's like being trapped at home," displaying feudalistic ideology. Establishing such a mindset from childhood probably makes it impossible to save him. Wukong, unable to bear it any longer, angrily interjects, "Master, why are you saying these things to him? Give me some incense, I promise to break his cage." Houseen, tired of speaking, because his disciple only knows how to use his fists, reminds him, "All right, quiet down." After admonishing Wukong, he turns to the little king of hell and says, "This junior brother is a bit troublesome. It's my fault for mistaking you, causing this misunderstanding. It's a grave offense, please forgive me and don't hold it against me." Wukong, hearing this, is startled and doesn't understand. The little king of hell waves his hand and says, "Senior is being too polite. It's nothing, just a little misunderstanding. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Houseen happily replied, "All right then, you just take your time. If we're not meant to cross paths today, we'll meet again in the future." A moment later, the little king of hell also departed. Behind him stood Houseen's group, enveloped in a concealed aura and form. Feeling unsettled, Houseen turned back to mysterious lady and asked, "Are you sure this divine weapon of yours won't be detected?" She looked at him with great confidence and said, "Master, rest assured. This is my father's creation. He assured me that beyond the martial arts ranking top 10, there's no way it can be discerned." Hearing that this was a gift from her father, Houseen couldn't help but marvel, "Your father's treasures are truly abundant." Wukong, beside him, scratched his head and asked, "Master, then why do you have to follow him? Don't you want to take in disciples anymore?" Houseen raised an eyebrow at his young disciple and said, "Of course, I have my own plans." Houseen thinking, this person has such a low self-esteem, even if he uses the peak card, it may not increase his potential value. The key to enhancing his potential definitely lies with his father. While he pondered, Wukong asked again, "Master, there's another matter I'd like to inquire about. Has there been any issue with your body? Hearing this, Houseen was surprised. Huh? Any issue? Why do you ask like that? Wukong looked at him intently and said, with your profound strength, previously, there was hardly any leakage of spirit energy, but now I can sense some leaking out. Roughly around the cultivation of the 7th or 8th chi layer. Mysterious lady, hearing Wukong's words, chimed in, and Houseen, astonished, asked, is there an issue? I've sensed it too. I thought it was just my imagination. She replied, hearing their words, Houseen was astounded. This news was quite significant for him. He reconsidered, the cultivation of the 7th or 8th chi layer. It couldn't have been my imagination. Could what I perceived before be the spirit energy emitted from cultivation? He corrected himself, and my body has become stronger by using the peak card multiple times. He looked at his hands brimming with spirit energy and murmured to himself, if that's the case, then this intense familiar sensation couldn't be wrong. Then, Houseen indulged a bit more in his fantasies, thinking, could it be that I was truly the exceptional, powerful one before? And someone altered my memories, blending me into this worthless name. Lost in his thoughts, Houseen was suddenly brought back to reality by Wukong pointing and saying, Master, he's about to leave. Should we chase after him? Startled, Houseen snapped out of it and quickly ran after him, shouting for everyone to hurry. Meanwhile, at the martial arts arena, a chubby figure, accumulating crimson spirit energy, roared fiercely, try my ultimate move. After the shout, a terrifying stream of red light shot forth. Facing him was a slender figure, calm and collected, who calmly raised a defensive barrier against the attack, showing no signs of panic. Undeterred, the chubby opponent relentlessly pressed on with consecutive strikes. He swung his hand backward, forming a curved dagger, and lunged forward towards his opponent's chest. The skinny opponent spread a sinister purple aura and stood firm, seemingly waiting for the next move. But it was just a feint. The skinny opponent swiftly slipped behind the chubby one and said, is it my turn now, fatty? The chubby one, with red eyes, silently turned to face him, seemingly about to be caught off guard. However, he was not to be underestimated. He quickly turned back to receive a fierce punch from the skinny opponent. Their clashing fists created a resounding impact. The skinny one quickly launched another strike, catching the chubby opponent off guard, who managed to evade it skillfully. In response, the chubby opponent delivered a powerful blow, forcing the skinny one to defend with both hands. Watching this scene, the onlookers couldn't contain their excitement, exclaiming, truly worthy of the title, Twin Butchers, their strength is unmatched. One of them remarked, I wonder when we'll reach their level. To which another replied mockingly, your words sound more like a dream. Haha. While the two were still fiercely fighting, the old king of hell stood up and loudly exclaimed, enough, cease your hands at once for I command it. He glared at them with icy eyes and continued, a bunch of worthless individuals fighting is no more than bears brawling, devoid of any dignity. Upon hearing this, the two combatants stopped. The chubby one turned back, his dark red eyes showing signs of bitterness. Similarly, the skinny one had the same resentful expression. Gritting his teeth, the skinny one muttered angrily, once again, this old man wants to start bullying others, and with that, the story concludes. See you all in the next installment. Hello everyone, let's move on to the next episode. At this point, the old king of hell shouted out, interrogating, with your pathetic level, what tricks can you possibly pull off? Pathetic to the point that you're not even worth facing the me from 100 years ago. Upon hearing his scolding, the two generals quickly knelt down and said, Your Majesty, please forgive us, we lack skill. Before they could finish speaking, the old king glanced at them disdainfully and said, Don't call me your Majesty, you're unworthy of it. Then, he turned to the group in front of him and commanded, You, and you, and you, all of you attack me with full force. Let me show you how insignificant you are. Hearing this, the two generals were stunned, sweating profusely with fear written all over their faces. The king of hell showed no mercy as he urged, "What are you waiting for? Attack now!" Immediately, the subordinates dropped to their knees, trembling with fear, unable to lift their heads as they uttered, "We dare not, we absolutely dare not." This single sentence instilled terror and trembling in the entire group, which pleased the old king, who thought to himself, "Even if I were to forgive them, they still wouldn't dare. Truly a bunch of useless individuals." But with the cunning mind of the old king, every word he spoke led to a new path. He then released a terrifying aura of dominance, his killing intent palpable as he declared, "A bunch of useless people like you, I've wasted my efforts raising you. You dare to challenge me, unable to match me in combat, yet still dare to raise your hand against me. I'll consider it an act of rebellion. Now, you're truly despicable," he continued. The skinny opponent couldn't bear the humiliation and thought to himself, "Damn it, I believed the nonsense from that old man's mouth last time. I trusted his words, and look at the bitter consequences I've faced." The image of the old king of hell relentlessly attacking the Western demon king until he was powerless to resist. Still bedridden to this day, showed how despicable the old man was, finding any excuse to attack others. All he desired was the pleasure of seeing everyone kneel before him and lick his boots. The twisted expression on his face disgusted his subordinates, who dared not even vie for higher positions in the heavenly realm. Instead, he indulged in vain displays of power within his own domain. He was truly useless and a hypocrite. Just then, the little king of hell entered and said, "Greetings, esteemed father," the little king of hell announced as he entered. Upon hearing his voice, the old king turned around and inquired, "Have you completed your task?" The little king of hell promptly replied, "Yes, father. I have indeed finished. The demon lord was indeed formidable, but I have already sent him to the dungeon as you instructed." Upon hearing this, the old king of hell raised suspicion and questioned, "Sent him to the dungeon? Wasn't I the one who ordered you to bring their heads to me?" The little king of hell, confused, responded, "Wasn't it you who instructed me to send him to the dungeon?" He then showed a special decree he had received, clarifying, "Isn't this decree from a special individual?" His expression still puzzled, indicating he didn't understand the situation. Hearing this, the old king became furious, gritting his teeth and glaring at the little king of hell. He played his usual despicable game, pretending to be indignant and always right, and said, "Are you implying that I misremembered? Is that what you're insinuating?" The little king of hell, frightened, unconsciously backed away, trembling as he said, "No, father, that's not what I meant." Meanwhile, the old king exerted his strength on his hand forcefully and asked, "So let me ask you all, would I make a mistake in giving orders?" Before he even finished speaking, the little king of hell was struck by a powerful blow from the old king, a terrifying punch that sent him crashing to the ground, his head buried in the dirt, engulfed in a cloud of dust. As the dust settled, leaving the little king of hell lying motionless amidst the wreckage, the others remained silent, too afraid to utter a word. They all shared the same feeling of fear and dread. The old king of hell then approached the fallen figure, staring down at him. He reached down as if to grab his neck, his gaze icy and calculating. Lifting the little king of hell and squeezing his collar tightly, the old king delivered a chilling ultimatum, "Anyone who dares to doubt me will meet the same fate as him." Then, he shouted loudly, "Have you all heard me clearly?" His subordinates, trembling with fear, responded in unison, "Yes, your majesty." Meanwhile, as the old king held his son by the neck, the skinny general couldn't help but think, is the old man using this opportunity to warn everyone? Even if he's wrong, he insists he's right. A ferocious tiger won't eat its own cub, yet he's willing to sacrifice his own flesh and blood to intimidate others, truly despicable, a vile creature. Is it even worth leaving such a legacy for his son? On this side, he still gripped the little king of hell's neck tightly and questioned him again, "I'll ask you once more, did I order you to send him to the dungeon or to bring his head to me?" Despite hearing this, the little king of hell persisted, "Father, you clearly instructed me to send him to the dungeon." Hearing the unexpected answer, the old king became furious, his expression changing rapidly. Sensing his anger, his subordinates panicked and exclaimed. "Young master, don't insist anymore, you'll really die." Their worried faces betrayed their concern in every gesture. Upon hearing the little king of hell's response, the old king raised his clenched fist and asked again, "What did you just say? Speak louder so I can hear clearly." "I can't hear you clearly when you speak so softly." Before he even finished speaking, he swung his fist directly at the little king of hell's face. But suddenly, at that moment, a beam of bright light shot down from above, striking behind the old king with tremendous force, illuminating this dark and gloomy area. The old king glanced back, puzzled, not knowing what was happening. Stepping out from within the beam of light was Houseen's group, who spoke up, Hey, what's this old man up to?" Houseen looked at the old king with an expression akin to seeing a stray fish floundering in a dry frying pan. His tone turned cold as he said, "I was concerned that there were too many people here. Isn't it a bit too much not to show some courtesy to you, old man? But now it's fine. Do you really need any courtesy?" Upon hearing this, Wukong's fighting spirit surged, eagerly cracking his knuckles, thinking, "Great, it's time for a fight, aha." Mysterious Lady glanced at the old king with utter disdain and disgust in her eyes. Then the three of them approached the old king, with Houseen leading the way. He no longer showed any sign of timidity, exuding a fierce and formidable aura. The old king of hell, with a dark expression, assessed the trio. "Where did these dirty-nosed brats come from? How dare they intrude into my territory?" And with that, the story comes to an end. See you in the next episode.